On the 4th of February 2022, 27-year-old professional volleyball player Hyeok dies. 2 days later, 27-year-old Jockey, aka Jammie, was found dead at her home. What do these two people, Sulli from K-pop band FX, Meier, Conrad Roy, and countless others have in common? They were all victims to online bullying which resulted in their death. Let's take a look at some of these stories. G'day guys, and welcome to Bedtime Crime, a channel dedicated to serial killer stories, murder stories, and much more. Please watch this video, and if you enjoy it, a subscribe to the channel would be amazing. Let's get into today's story. Have you ever trolled someone? Have you ever bullied someone online? And if so, what should happen to you? Is it your right for free speech? Now, I'm not targeting anyone specifically. However, there might be a possibility that someone watching this video has taken part in online bullying or trolling. Why do they do it? What repercussions might they one day have to deal with? Today follows a few different stories that ended tragically for some of these victims. So, who are these trolls or online bullies? Basically, anyone who has their hands on an electronic device which connects to social media, blogs, YouTube, etc. could be considered one of these people. Meaning also, we come in all shapes, sizes, races, etc. But just to give you an idea of how early it can start, a 2014 study conducted in Singapore covering influences and narrative cultures around cyberbullying found that out of 3,000 secondary students aged between 13 and 17, 1 in 4 had bullied a peer online and 1 in 3 had been bullied online. The study also showed 1,900 primary school students at the ages as early as 7 to 12, 1 in 5 of them were victims to cyberbullying. That's interesting to hear when most social media platforms these days have the age restriction of 13 and older. Of course, some people fake their age and just sign up anyway. One of those young victims, and probably one of the first highly publicized victims, was Meier. Meier was only 13 when she took her own life due to online bullying. More on her story a little later as we go through this video. So, we know how early it starts, and as we get older, some of us mature and stop. But some of us continue to take part in online bullying. But why do people troll? Trolling can be seen in many different ways. In some ways, trolling can be seen equivalent to attention seeking, sometimes just like the people they are targeting. Trolling often attracts both negative and positive attention. Some trolling can be seen as amusing, therefore acceptable to some. Some even might get a kick out of making people upset. Others might see it as if it's their right to call someone out on someone else's opinions. Some might feel jealous of the person that they are trolling. Some cases suggest that jealousy can lead to trolling just like it does with bullying. The effects of wanting to kill someone's confidence can drive someone who is jealous. Some might be jealous of the way one looks, so they lash out.
What are you?
I'm a dude.
What are your pronouns?
He, him?
He, him?
Yeah.
Why's your hair like that?
You never seen a guy with long hair? Jesus had long hair.
How do you know that?
That's what we assume him to look like, right?
Shut up. You're so ugly.
Am I?
Cut your hair.
Why are you so mad about it?
I'm not mad.
Apparently you are. You're bothered.
I'm not bothered. I just feel bad for you.
You feel bad
need
for
help.
me. I need help.
You need help.
About
You
for
do
what?
need
For
help.
what?
Your fucking hair, you look stupid.
I look stupid.
You look like you're fucking not loved.
Wow.
Beauty standard shaming, which includes body shaming, is one of the most common forms of trolling and online bullying. Meier, who we briefly mentioned earlier, was friend requested by an account named Josh Evans through MySpace. At that time, MySpace had only been around for 2 years. The messages from this so-called Josh got more sinister as the conversation went on. There were supposed bulletins that posted things about Megan Meier, saying, Megan Meier is Megan Meier is fat. Megan read these comments and felt absolutely horrible, as anyone should or would. Sadly, only moments later after she read some of these terrible messages, Megan took her own life. And what's even more sick is that Josh Evans, a 16-year-old male, turned out to be the mother of a former friend of Megan. Both the mother and the former friend engaged in the bullying. Hyeok, a Korean professional volleyball player, wrote on social media in 2021 about his struggles to cope with trolls and their comments. Comments about Kim's sexuality as well as his appearance were a constant target. Certain trolls would question whether he wears makeup or not. And just for reference, it isn't uncommon for some men in Korea to wear some sort of makeup. However, some comments were that he wears too much makeup, something that he strongly denied. Eventually, the comments became too much for Kim, and on the 4th of February 2022, Kim was found dead in his home. And it's no surprise that even some of the brightest stars in our galaxy are victims to this. Sulli, South Korean actress and former member of K-pop group FX, took her own life, most believed due to the amount of criticism she was receiving. Sulli had been in the spotlight in Korea since she was very young. Not long before her death, she was the host of a show trying to educate people about cyberbullying. As she got older, her image went from being the innocent-faced-looking girl and turned into what some media brands called eccentric and forward-thinking. She was very body positive and expressive, trying to move traditional views to more modern views. Though some called her forward-thinking, others called her inappropriate. In many ways, Korea is still quite conservative when it comes to the female image. Photos of her braless would take the internet by storm. However, many comments were more abusive than supportive. In an episode of the Korean show Unanswered Questions, one of Sulli's haters was interviewed. We believe this comment about her body has a clearly malicious intention and constitutes as sexual harassment. So, what if it does have a malicious intention? I only meant that she already is pretty enough, so she shouldn't do things like this that diminishes her beauty. Do you think she posed in this picture like this one on purpose? Is there any other reason she would have taken it that way? What was the need to leave your opinion in text on her Instagram though? What? Are you a fan of her or something? My comment wasn't even to you. A troll who clearly lacks remorse for what he said. Remember him for a little later. As we all know, not all trolling is about beauty standards. Some have to do with beliefs such as religion, mantras, personal views, and in some cases misunderstandings of people themselves. Which is what happened to broadcast jockey Cho Chang-mi, aka Jockey Jammie. During a broadcast in 2019, the popular streamer made a hand gesture that some viewers saw as a signal of man-hating feminism. I find it hard to believe that a streamer who I imagine had an audience of male followers would purposely do a sign condemning men. However, even after 2 public apologies, the malicious comments kept coming. Sadly, on February 6th, 2022, she was found dead in her home. And this is only 2 days after Hyeok took his own life due to similar circumstances. There are stories for miles on reasons why trolls say hateful things. Inabilities to reach social standards in skills, knowledge, race, ethnicity, background, pronouns. But this begs the question, who are safe from trolls? Well, basically anyone who doesn't have a social media or online presence. They are just in danger of good old-fashioned criticism offline. You don't even have to be a creator, celebrity, or influencer to receive hateful comments. As mentioned earlier, children as early as 7 are experiencing online bullying, and if you go into any comment section on any controversial comment, it won't be too long before you see people arguing online. Most of the time the comments can be seen as general banter, but when things go too far, who should be held accountable? Following the unfortunate death of South Korean beauty icon Sulli, in 2019 an act against cyberbullying was trying to be introduced into the National Assembly in South Korea. There was a strong backing to put this act into law. The act was going to be named after Sulli, called Sulli's Law or Sulli's Act. However, an article in 2020 said it was no longer in the talks. It does look like some progress is being made though. Going back to the study I mentioned before, it mentions a case on a social media influencer named Jamie Chow, who at the time of her lawsuit had over 600,000 followers and now at the time of this recording has over 1.2 million followers. Jamie successfully filed for 65 anti-harassment protection orders against internet users. Reportedly, Jamie was the subject of many online abusive messages through her Instagram and comment sections. The Protection from Harassment Act protects the influencer from receiving any more abusive messages from the users who the file is against. Luckily, Jamie seems to have moved on from her abuse. One of the biggest cases to come out of America in regards to cyberbullying has to be the Conrad Roy and Michelle Carter case. Conrad's case is a little different as it is revolved around one other person, and rather than social media, it was done through messaging. A lot of you may know about this story, but for those who don't, let me give you a brief history. Conrad Roy was an 18-year-old high school graduate who was quite intelligent, graduating with a GPA of 3.88. But as smart as he was, he had his very dark demons getting in his way. Roy suffered from social anxiety and depression, to which he was seeking professional help for, and suicide was a common subject he would talk about. On a trip to Florida, Conrad met and built a relationship with a 17-year-old girl by the name of Michelle Carter. Michelle Carter was also a person who struggled with her own demons. At around the age of 8 years old, she developed an eating disorder, and by 14, she was prescribed psychiatric medication. Though geographically they lived quite close, around 50 kilometers, they only met in person a small number of times. But they managed to keep their relationship going for 2 years. It was questionable whether they were boyfriend or girlfriend or just very close friends. But they were very open with each other, so Conrad would talk about his depression and suicide to Michelle. He would also mention that he wanted to kill himself numerous times. At first, Michelle was encouraging Conrad to continue getting help and not kill himself. However, a month leading up to Conrad's death, her messages changed. Hi. What's up? Just woke up and you? Why do you seem so happy? Because tonight's the night. You said that last night and the night before. I know, but it has to be tonight. I'll be alone. Do you think tonight really is the night you're going to do it? I think. There's a difference between saying, I'm going to try to commit suicide, and I'm going to commit suicide. Well, I'm going to try. So, you don't want it bad enough. You already know you're going to fail because a part of you wants to fail. Just saying. This was not the day that Conrad took his own life, but he would 8 days later. Conrad died on July 13th, 2014 by poisoning himself with carbon monoxide fumes in his truck. Now, because this case only had one other person involved, it was easy to pinpoint the problem. The grand jury charged Michelle with wantonly and recklessly assisting the suicide, and she was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. She was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, but later reduced to 15 months on good behavior. This case was interesting because I assessed it as focusing on one troll rather than a large group of them. Again, I must stress I'm only a creator with an undergraduate criminology degree, so none of my opinions should be taken too seriously. But Conrad's case made me look a little deeper into who trolls are, and like Michelle, do some trolls also have a mental illness? Now, I'm not talking about small banter, jokes and one-liners, I'm talking about the ones who tell people to kill themselves. We've all heard of these cases before, and a lot of us are really questioning why people say these things. Some research suggests that trolls enjoy putting down or hurting others. They feel better about doing it. Like I mentioned early, they might get a kick out of it, a rush almost. And this could also relate to sadism, which is defined as the tendency to derive pleasure from being extremely cruel. Now, there is a sexual element to sadism, but it does follow the same sort of lines, I think. Research also suggests that there might be a link between psychopathy and trolls. One definition of psychopathy is a neuropsychiatric disorder marked by deficient emotional responses such as lack of empathy. As pointed out in the Sulli case, some of the trolls were lacking empathy towards Sulli even after her death. Now I'll again point out, I don't want to say everyone who watches YouTube are trolls. I don't believe all trolls would be psychopaths or sadistic. However, going by the study, it is interesting to see certain connections made. So, laws are moving forward when it comes to cyberbullying. People are changing their minds on cyberbullies. But it appears that they are moving at an incredibly slow pace. The Meier case was more than 15 years ago. Charging one individual would be much easier than charging a large group of trolls. However, the question is there a way you can enforce a law in which large numbers of people could be charged with cyberbullying? Some people have gone on to call this, when the victim does die, as social murder. What do you think? How can it be stopped? And can it be stopped? The thing I love about the true crime fanatics is how outspoken they can be. So let me know in the comments section below. And before I go today, if you or someone you know is suffering from depression or suicidal thoughts, please seek professional assistance. You are not alone. You are not weak for feeling this way. You have people who care about you. You are not being judged. And you can make it through. Thank you for watching Bedtime Crime. If you enjoyed content like this, please leave a like and subscribe. The more support, the better this channel can become. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next story.